Welcome back. In this segment, we will be reviewing the movie Scarface. Scarface is a 1983 American crime drama film directed by Brian De Palma and written by Oliver Stone. A remake of the 1932 film of the same name, it tells the story of Cuban refugee Tony Montana, acted by Al Pacino, who arrives penniless in 1980s Miami and goes on to become a powerful drug lord. To review the movie, we have film critic Anthony Abraham with us. Anthony, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for having me here this morning.
So, Anthony, let us talk about the fascinating character of Tony Montana. I mean, how would you define his character in Scarface?
Well, sometimes I ask myself, is it the movie itself or the character we like? It's very hard to answer that question because sometimes it feels like it's the character itself we're still emotionally attached to, and we forget about the entire film because, you know, it's for me, it's one of the touching areas is the fact that he's a gangster, he's ruthless, and, you know, he can't trust himself because he doesn't stay true to anybody's rules, but at the same time, he has feelings for his sister. You understand? So that emotional side, you know, gave it a very, you know, sentimental connection to the character, Tony Montana, because we know him, he's wild, he's always cursing, he doesn't listen to anybody, he's cocky, he's just discombobulated, that's the word. But he has this emotional attachment to his sister, you know, from the scene where he goes to visit her with her mom, and, you know, where he was very protective of her dating his friend. And, you know, when he had to kill his friend, so that aspect of him, Tony Montana himself, is very difficult to be able to define or explain or understand. And so for me, sometimes it looks like the character is bigger than the film itself.
So, Anthony, can we talk about the amount of violence in this crime drama, which seemed very realistic, as if you're actually experiencing a gangster life yourself?
Okay, I'm not surprised because, I mean, you're talking Cubans, you're talking the drug world, you're talking gangsters. So there was no way, you know, we wouldn't see the violence. If you remember all the way from the beginning, there was a chainsaw scene, and that was, you know, really violent. And, you know, there was a lot of F words. Even the producer had challenges getting a censor board to approve his film. The first time he submitted was a challenge. The second time was a challenge. Even the third time, you know, and they kept saying, no, there's too much violence here. There was too much F words. They had a problem with the clown being shot. You know, one of the scenes, the club scene, where there was a major shootout. So it was just too much. And these guys had to, you know, crank it all up. And, you know, Brian De Palma said, look, this is the third time. What I'm going to do now, after the second and third editing, I'm going to take it back to the first original picture, and I'm going to war with the censor committee. And he won. And the movie got a screening, and, you know, it was a bit difficult in the beginning, but later, I mean, it grossed over $60 million. So for me, it was needed to tell the story because, you know, when you're telling the story, you have to be authentic with the story, and there's no way you're talking about crime, you're talking about a drug world, and there's no violence. So it's nearly impossible to separate that without, you know, dousing the authenticity of this script. And in this character, we had to see how he grew fast because it's a feature film, and we had to be able to understand all the elements to build this character up, and we had to know why he's the way he is. He came from a violent background, so he had to have all that. And to get to the top so fast, there was no way he'll do it without the guns.
Right. And Anthony, the wit that Michelle Pfeiffer's character adds to this movie is remarkable. What are your thoughts on her character?
Of course. Well, in her case, she was in her 20s then. In fact, she wasn't the one who was originally, you know, planned for that role. I mean, they had a lot of other people from Gina Davis to Sigourney Weaver. But I think she did a great job. Elvira was just amazing. And, you know, she was the woman he was crazy about that turned him into a clown. She was the woman that brought out his humor. You know, he became funny when he was chasing her. And for me, she could talk to him. You understand? She could talk to him and face him and not be afraid of Tony Montana, the drug lord. So I think for me, her character played, you know, a really symbolic role. I remember how skinny and frail she was in that movie. I remember the dancing scene in the club. And you remember, we can't say that now, but remember the lines, what she said about if you were the last man on earth. So for me, Pfeiffer was, and after that, Pfeiffer, you know, she took off. So it was a good movie for everybody. You know, it was a movie, even Al knew it, that if I don't take this character it probably, I'll never forgive myself. I heard even Pacino was probably, tipped on playing that role. So for Pfeiffer, I'm happy she did it, and she did a good job. And, I knew Pfeiffer from Scarface, you understand, and I began to look out for her more. So it's a film that you can't go wrong in. Anybody who's in that movie, you're lucky. You're a lucky person, no doubt.
Right. So we know that the story was remarkable, the casting was remarkable, the directions and everything. But in your opinion, what specifically makes Scarface such an iconic movie?
Well, I think it's cliche when we say Pacino, right? Because his character as Tony Montana, did a lot. He's Spanish accent. His character. That's why, if you remember during this conversation earlier, I said it's very difficult to say, is it the movie or is it the Scarface character himself as Al Pacino? You understand? So it's very difficult to say. For me, I'll say it's him. I'll say it's him because he brought a guy I can't even define into Tony Montana. Tony Montana became a pop culture, with his last line with the M16, say hello to my little friend. So there's just so much about him. I mean, it's say goodnight to a bad guy. These things would make you remember him and sometimes forget the film. So I feel he's just the character that brought that film out. And maybe if somebody else had done it, I don't know. It's possible they would have been able to do a great job. I feel DiCaprio will do a great job. I think he's a great guy. I'm not supposed to be dropping names right now, but I want to strongly believe that. It's a great script, a fantastic team, fantastic production, good budget, but Pacino brought a lot to the table in getting into that character, Tony Montana. So it did so much for the movie itself that you remember Pacino and you could easily forget Scarface. So whenever you hear Scarface, what comes to your mind is Pacino. You understand? So I feel he's done so much in bringing so much life. I'm happy he stuck to his guns and said, look, I'm not going to allow somebody else take this character. I'm going to play Tony Montana. Even with all the challenges we had, I'm sure you heard about the time he grabbed the muzzle of one of the machine guns and got burned in his hand. And, they had to have the 2 weeks break. But I feel it's him. It's difficult to separate him from the film. Whenever you say Scarface, you remember Tony Montana and you remember Al Pacino. So strongly, I'll say, yes, the characters were all amazing. It was a collective effort, but he did a great job.
Right. So talking about the comparison and talking about, Al Pacino bringing a lot to the table in this movie, which one of these movies would you, recommend the most? Goodfellas, Godfather, or Scarface? Of course, no comparison, but out of these three, which one of you think that stand out?
But already, right? It's The Godfather.
Okay.
I would say Scarface is an incredible movie. The Godfather is a classic.
No comparison to Godfather.
It's an undisputed, it's undisputed champion. It's on its league. It just stays there. So it's a very, I feel for me, it's not tricky. I can go straight and just tell you Scarface is an incredible movie, but Godfather is a classic. You can't. It's very difficult. Maybe because Godfather is more of like a collection. It's you're watching a dynasty. You understand?
Exactly.
You're watching so much, and maybe because maybe it's just Scarface is just one movie, and because it's a movie that's so pacey, so it seems very short. You understand? So maybe that's why it's difficult for me. Goodfellas is a great movie. You understand? But Scarface, Godfather, it's. I feel it's not fair comparison. It's not fair at all. It's not fair. Trust me, it's not fair. Yeah.
Okay, Anthony, it was great discussing this movie with you. Thank you very much indeed for your time.
Thank you very much.
That was Anthony Abraham reviewing Scarface. And that is it from today's episode. We hope you liked it. Don't forget to share your feedback on the social media links mentioned down below. We'll see you next time. Until then, take care and goodbye.